Hey, my third grade mathematicians, did you do your line plot for how far a third grader can flip a coin? If not, pause the video and complete the line plot and watch the previous video again if you need some help, okay? All right, so I created a line plot so that we could discuss the data and see what we have learned. Okay, so take a minute and look at your line plot, look at my line plot. Make sure that we have all of our measurements recorded and it looks the same as yours. Okay. All right, so what do you notice about the data? What do you notice about the data? Well, there's a lot of data up here, right? And a few more toward the middle of the line plot. Do you remember what pieces of data that are far off from the other data is called? An outlier. So I'm thinking that 17 inches and 19 inches, that data would be considered outliers. Okay. So what else would you say about the data of how far we flipped a coin? What would you say the typical or usual measurement was for our class, for our grade 3 students? Well, the data here is clumped together. Again, I'm considering 17 inches and 19 inches outliers. I would say the typical third grader would be able to flip a coin 8 to 8.5 inches. That would be the typical measurement. This line plot reminds me of how far third graders jumped. The data doesn't have a defined shape of increasing and then decreasing or increasing from the beginning of the line plot to the end of the line plot or the reverse. Okay. What else could you say about the data? That more than half of the data can flip a coin from 5.5 inches to 13 inches. I would say that. Or 5.5 inches if you wanted to not consider that small clump there to 10.5 inches, that more than half of the data could flip a coin 10.5 inches. You could say 6 inches, 7 inches, 8 inches, 8.5 inches, 10.5 inches, 12.5 inches, all have the same number of students that flipped those measurements. You could say at least 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 students flipped their coins at least 10 inches. So that means 10 or more inches. Okay. All right, again, we like to look at different line plots just to train our brains on how we can communicate data to others and how we can organize data, and especially if it looks like this or the line plot with our grade 3, how far they jumped. The line plot can look a lot different than what we might think a typical line plot would look like. Okay? All right, great work today, guys, and I cannot wait to continue our study of data and measurement.